Hi, this is James Zhang with Full Capital, and today we are here with Chris Deuillet to talk about a new deal called Villa Creek. Chris, thanks for jumping on. Maybe to kick it off, give us a little bit of your background and maybe talk about what you guys did in 2020.
Sure. My name's Chris Deuillet. I grew up here locally in Dallas, so very familiar with the DFW Metroplex. I've been in the market for a little over 21 years with CBRE for 15 of those. Last year, with COVID and everything else, our team did very well, doing 29 transactions and a little over 13 billion in multifamily sales, A, B, and C product. So 2021, hopefully we can beat that, but that's how we did it last year.
Great. So we'll jump into this deal, Villa Creek. So you guys have had this guy listed for a couple weeks and wanted to get you on and maybe start with and just sort of tell a little bit of the backstory of the deal and sort of what the seller's done so far on this deal.
Sure. So property's Villa Creek. It's at the northwest corner of Josie and 635, our loop 635 that goes around Dallas proper. We sold it to the current owners in 2016, and immediately he went in and started a pretty good CapEx program. Within the first 6 months, he replaced all the windows. So all the windows are double pane windows. From this picture, you can see that the landscaping looks fairly new. He tore out all of the old original landscaping on the street side and did it, just really updated it from that perspective. He's gone in and also replaced a lot of the HVACs. He updated the office. What else? That's pretty much on a high level. And then as the units turn, he did what we would call quote unquote touched all the units with some sort of upgrade to each one of those units.
Yeah, here's a map that we pulled up. I mean, you can see it sits sort of right in sort of northwest Dallas. Probably 15 minutes from the airport, 5 minutes from the Galleria right there at Tollway and 635. You got connections to 35, George Bush, getting over to Irving. So I mean, it's sitting right on a major thoroughfare, and you can get east, west, north, south pretty easily all throughout the Metroplex. So I
It's a
zoomed in
community
here
brand.
on the you sort of pulled this out of the OM in terms of sort of surrounding area, right? Because you are pretty close into Dallas, and so talk about sort of the surrounding area and what sort of the residential market is in that area.
Sure. This is a northern suburb. I like to call it kind of a first tier interior suburb, Farmers Branch, which is part of the Carrollton Farmers Branch area. Home prices, as you can see here, are middle to upper middle income type of families. This is part of the Dallas Independent School District. One of the things I can point out here, and it's a little hard to see on this, but just across the street to the east of this property, there's 25 acres that is frontage on 635 that is owned by the city of Farmers Branch. It's zoned, I guess you could say, mixed use. It was a lot of medical office. It was scraped. And so the city of Farmers Branch is wanting this intersection where Villa Creek is to be kind of the gateway into their city. So they are looking for a developer, and COVID has really kind of slowed things down a little bit. But you're going to have a lot of what I would say small box, triple net type of retail and some office across the street from you, probably, let's call it for sure in the next 5 years. But COVID has just slowed that whole process down. So I think that's a key selling point for this location.
All right. So here's a couple more exterior pictures. Maybe give us a feel for sort of how the site lays out, and then maybe what amenities are on the property, and then any potential amenities that a new buyer could put in.
Sure. And it's kind of interesting that the builder, this property is built in 64 and 65 in two different phases. It does have those kind of those precipices on the ends of some of the buildings. So it does add a nice kind of castle-like feature, if you want to say that. But one of the other things that the current owner did was on that top picture is you can see that he's put in a lot of hardy plank siding on the upper half of the property. The first half is all brick, and then he did hardy on the second half. So that that, that's a 50-year warranty. That stuff is going to be there for a very long time. And then the picture below, what you're seeing, the density of this property, it's almost on 8 acres, and it's all 2-story. Is they have a couple very large courtyards, and you can see one of them down the bottom picture. I've been involved with this property for about 15 years. This will be the second time I've sold it, but I've spoken to the owners over the years as it's transitioned, and nobody has really taken advantage of these large courtyards. So James, you asked me, what community features are there? There's really none. Besides 3 laundry rooms, there's not a pool, there's not a playground, there's not a dog park, there's not an outdoor kitchen, there's not a park bench to be seen. And I really think that's an opportunity for a new owner to take advantage of these big courtyards.
All right. So in terms of, a lot of people, 1964, 1965 is when these two, phases were built. Talk about sort of the mechanical parts of these buildings and sort of what's been replaced and what's sort of still left to be done.
Sure. So as I said earlier, it's built in 2 different phases. The second phase consists of 49 units, and it's kind of night and day compared to the first phase. Second phase, 49 units. It's on pier and beam. It is on a chiller. Now that chiller is 6 months old. It's obviously, good shape, great shape. The other phase 1 is all individual HVACs, pigtailed wiring, and they did replace all the stab lock breaker boxes that were on there originally. So you have kind of, I would say, from an insurance perspective, all the key features that insurance companies want to see from that angle. And as I said it earlier, a lot of the HVAC systems have been replaced since ownership changed hands in 2016.
All right, and then
I'll just chime in here. You have it highlighted in red. The roofs were replaced in 2012, and then the 2 roofs from we'll get into this, but 2 of the roofs were damaged from a tornado in 2018. Those were replaced obviously very recently in 2019, 2020.
And the mix of units here, so we got 89 1-bedrooms, so that's about 55% of the units, and then 45% are 2s and 3s. And so in terms of the exterior, I guess, adding some amenities, but not much to do on the exterior. So I think we're going to spend a little bit more time on the interior. So maybe, I guess this is a classic unit, and then talk about what the seller has done on the interior so far.
Sure. So, this will be a little bit of the story, but 15 of the units are fully upgraded units. They have kind of what in workforce housing area we thank you, James. That on the upper left is, you see that a little more on common older properties nowadays. You see the subway tile backsplash, hard surface countertops, shaker style cabinet fronts, black on black appliances, vinyl plank flooring. Those are the units that have been what we'll call fully upgraded on this property. There's 15 of those. And what happened was, these are strictly in 2 buildings in the northwest corner of the property. A small EF0 tornado kind of hopped, skipped, and jumped through this area and damaged 2 of the buildings in 2018. So those 2 buildings were really taken down all the way to the studs. So in those buildings, you have new ductwork, new wiring, all new cabinet boxes, hard surface countertops. I mean, all of this is about 2 years old. Lighting, fans, everything in those 2 buildings are new. So those are what we're going to call the N unit, or the fully upgraded unit.
Okay,
Then
so that's 15 units.
That's 15.
Okay, all right.
And then the rest of the property, what we're looking at here, are a classic unit finish outs. These are units that have, how they define it is, the units have not been touched by the current ownership. So there's 36 of these that you can see are Formica countertops, original cabinet fronts. Flooring is a little dated. The 2-tone paint is going to be dated. The fans, the lighting fixtures are all going to be pretty dated on that. And then you have, that was a good example. Then you have the remaining, let's call them partially upgraded units, that are 112. We define those as they've been quote unquote touched since these guys bought it in 2016. So it's hit or miss. You might have a white appliance package with a hard surface, or you might have a backsplash with Formica countertops. So those units are really kind of hit or miss. There was no systematic approach or system to upgrade those units, if that makes sense.
All right. So you have 36 classics that you could decide, do you want to take those partial or you could take them full? It looks like your fulls are getting about $200 over classic. And then your partials, how much more are your partials getting?
Those are going to be 100. We're showing here 170.
Okay.
I correct. Yes, about 170.
Okay. All right. So, there's upside obviously in bringing these units up to market in terms of partial and full upgrades, but then I guess any additional upside items that people should be aware about?
So in the lower hand corner, the additional upside potentials, they do allow pets. And the way the property is laid out on the first floor, there is the ability, and it's been very cost effective in other deals that we have sold, is to extend the patios. In some instances, you need to create the patio, but by extending that patio, it costs about $900. And, Americans love their pets. Is we're getting anywhere from $50 to $75 a month for that additional pet yard. So when you let your dog out back, he has a place to, use the restroom. There's some green space back there, and residents really eat that up. So that's one of the plays that you could do. The second one is the bulk cable contract. Now that was signed off in December of 2020, and ownership has already said the signing bonus, which is $56,000, is not cut until 6 months into the contract, which is July. So that's just going to go to the new ownership. So that's just a check that the new ownership will receive in July, $56,000. But then on top of that, that bulk cable contract is about $43 cost to implement. And the new ownership is implementing that. The ownership is implementing that at about $83 a unit a month. So there's a $40 delta that just goes to your bottom line in regards to additional income. And then the third one, the way the property is laid out, the parking lots are laid out, there are some ideal spots to add carports. Your competition to the north, as well as some of the properties to the south, already have carports. So all you're doing is really just getting competitive parity with your competition, adding those carports. And we see that on other properties getting anywhere from $25 to $60 a space in revenue for each space in a carport.
All right. So, upgrading the classics maybe to partial or full, and then maybe even taking partials to the full upgrade is sort of the interior play. And then private yards, cable contract, build back, and carports are sort of additional revenue options. Talk about the rental competition in that market right now.
We have a lot here. It's really interesting. The property, Villa Creek, does not have any immediate competition. Your next door neighbor is not another apartment complex. So you have to drive maybe, I guess it's about 2 miles south and 2 miles north, really, to bump into any other residential units that a resident might have to pursue. The one on this list that I would probably make it comparable to would be the Burgundy. So that, as the crow flies, is maybe 3-4 miles away, same school district. That would be in the same space as the residents would come to this property, as well as the Burgundy, to see what kind of rents they have. But the Burgundy recently sold a couple of years ago, and they've gone through, I would say, a nice upgrade program there. It's the former condo deal HOA, and that's all dissolved. But now the Burgundy is I would say, your competition, probably something that you could compare to or advance up to. Even though the Burgundy is, let's call it, 10, 15 years newer, the Villa Creek could easily compete with that level.
Okay, so average rent right now is about $940 at Villa Creek, and then Burgundy is sitting about $200 more on average, and so really just making up that difference, getting 100, 150, making up that gap between the two as you do these upgrades is sort of the plan there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So in terms of Whisper, I have down 19.2 as the Whisper. Is that right?
That's correct. All cash. Yes.
Okay. All right. So in terms of debt, we looked at it really three different ways. Number one, just sort of with a straight Fannie Mae loan. We looked at it Freddie Mac and then non-recourse bridge. And on the Fannie side, we're getting to about 70% LTV on the Whisper. 3 to 325, 3.5 on the interest rate, just depending on the prepay structure and the term of the loan. Anywhere from 3 to 5 years IO. And then Fannie Mae right now has a 12-month P&I reserve. Freddie Mac, conventional, similar leverage, 3 to 325 on a floating rate over SOFR, 3 to 5 years IO. And then reserve of about 9 months P&I is what Freddie Mac conventional is requiring. And then if you wanted a little bit more leverage, you could go non-recourse bridge. So 75% loan to cost. It would be about a 4% starting rate on a floater. Full term IO, 3-year term, there would be no P&I reserve. And so I want to just show you the underwriting that we did on sort of the Fannie Freddie side. Net rental, we're going to use T3, other income, T12. And then in terms of expenses, I mean, they're running it pretty well right now. The payroll was a little bit high. I think because some of the units were down, so that they bring those units back up. In terms of the tornado, so some of the maintenance costs were a little bit higher. So we brought the payroll to about 1,100 per unit. G&A was 300 a unit. Utilities were T12, R&M 600 a door, insurance 475, and in taxes we brought up to about 60% of the purchase price. This sits in Dallas County, and they have not been as aggressive as some of the other counties in like Tarrant County. Anywhere from 70 to 75% on your leverage, depending on if you want a more stabilized long-term loan or a little bit shorter 3 to 5 year bridge. So that's it on the financing side. Chris, maybe wrap us up with any final thoughts on the deal, and then if you guys have a call for offers date, let us know.
Sure. Yeah, the call for offers is about 2 weeks away, and just my 2 cents. Everybody's concerned about location, and this is an older asset in an A location, so it's easily visible from Loop 635, and the ownership has really taken good care of it. It's above average for this type of vintage, so but there's still definitely meat on the bone. Give me a call, and we can chat.
All right. Thanks a lot, Chris.
Yep. Thanks, James.